Welcome to week 27. Hi, yeah, welcome to week 27. I've got a new camera. I've got a Canon M50 which I'm playing around with. I'm really enjoying messing around with this one. It's got super quick autofocus, because it should make my life a little bit easier in terms of being able to make some decent videos, and I'm looking forward to trying that out. So anyway, what's this week been like? It's been great. I've done really well with my training. I've done just shy of, I think, 10 hours, which has included some commuting and some turbo sessions and some swimming and some running, which is pretty much what makes triathlon what it is. And I've eaten really well. So I'm going to break those down a little bit for you, and then I'm going to show you a bit of a montage and then talk about what I wanted to talk about this week, which was really breaking down goal setting into something a little bit more practical. So this week, the probably breakthrough in terms of hours has been with my bike riding. I commuted into work 2 days, which kind of accumulated about four and a half hours worth of training in terms of quite low intensity stuff. Some of it is cross bike riding, although one of the ride backs was pretty miserable with the weather and the wind, and the kind of like trying to ride cross country with a light wasn't the best idea. Won't be doing that again. Anyway, I'm going to keep those sort of hours up over the next week for some more intensity before having a bit of a rest. And I did an hour turbo last Sunday, and then another 45-minute turbo session on Friday, which was 45 minutes leading into 8x400 run, which is the fastest kind of running I've done in a long time. Not very far, but trying to get that intensity and the speed back in a little bit. I did another 30-minute run, which was really easy on the Saturday yesterday, just to kind of flush the legs out a little bit. What some people call a recovery run, but we all know there's no such thing really. And then swimming-wise, last Monday was a bit of a strange session, because we did some 200s efforts, but the chlorine levels in the air were kind of they had a bit of a problem at the pool with the chlorine levels, and the last 50 was kind of killing us all in terms of being able to get air in. So that was almost like a hypoxic set without it meaning to be. And then Wednesday and Friday were both pretty technical sets. So in terms of training, that's been really good fun. I've also been doing my strength and conditioning stuff that I'm doing to try and get my knee right, and that's kind of making some improvements as well. So in terms of training, that's been going really well. Nutrition's also been great. I have been doing what Sophie's told me to do, really, in terms of making sure that I'm prepared. So I've been taking breakfast to work in terms of a bagel with some eggs and some salad, and having that when I've been getting to work, and then a couple of snacks of a banana and an apple, and then a couple of wholemeal wraps with some chicken and some salad in there for lunch, and then just a normal evening tea, just trying to make sure that I get plenty of vegetables and meat and kind of proteins and things like that in, drinking tons of water. And actually I found it really quite a simple process really to get into eating properly. I've also been doing like a half-day fasting on my rest day on Thursday when I haven't done any exercise, and that's been a good move too. So from the 8 o'clock meal I had on a Wednesday, which is actually quite late this week, until the sort of half two on the Thursday, I haven't really eaten, and yeah, it's been a good kind of process to follow really. And yeah, as a consequence of the combination of the training and the nutrition side of things, I've knocked off 5.5 kilos in November, which I think equates to just something over 12 pounds. I found it quite easy because I've got a lot of easy weight to lose, to be honest with you. Sort of relatively falling off at the moment, but let's face it kind of really needs to. CTL, for those of you that use Training Peaks, is a really good measurement of fitness. It actually stands for chronic training load. And it's an algorithm really that Training Peaks uses to measure kind of fitness really in an athlete. It takes power meter data, heart rate data, intensity, duration, all those kind of things, and gives you a number. Currently my CTL number is sitting at 34, which is incredibly low for me. It has been lower at the very end of my 2-month exile from training when I had my chest infection a few months back. It was down to 21. So I built it back up to 34 so far, but just to give you an idea of where I kind of really need to be at my best, in May, just before I had my best ever season in June of 2015, when I was running 40-minute 10Ks, and I came 14th at Bristol Triathlon, so I was having a bit of a banger of a season. My CTL level was at 70, so I'm kind of, I guess you could kind of say I'm exactly half as fit as I was in 2015. I'm probably nearly double the weight as well. But anyway, those are two numbers that I intend to get up. I intend to get my CTL level up. and hopefully I'll get my kilograms down, and that'll be the plan really for the next couple of months anyway. So here's a bit of a montage of some of the stuff I've been up to this week, and some of the riding, running and swimming that I've been doing. Let's talk about goals. Okay, this was something that was broken down for me by a brilliant coach called Andy Bullock, who now lives in Germany, but he was at Bad Try for many years as a coach. He came to do a talk at my club Pack Try some time ago now, talking about kind of goal setting and stuff. I have seen it written down elsewhere, but he broke it down really well, and I thought I'd do the same thing for you. So let's talk about the kind of more broad goals that we tend to have. We do tend to kind of say things like, you know, I want to have expensive cars, or I want to be rich, or I want to be happy, or I want to live in the countryside, or I want to complete an Ironman, or complete my first triathlon, or I'd love to run the London Marathon. Those kind of things, a lot of the time they're quite broad goals that aren't really very specific or overly measurable, and we tend to call those outcome goals. I've got a sheet here that I'm going to post a link to that I've been kind of working on developing over the last week or so, and I'll explain kind of how it all works. But at the bottom here are my outcome goals, and if you look kind of left to right, it's 2019 here. I kind of want to be finishing in kind of top 5 position if I can, in terms of some of the races that I want to do. I know some of the bigger races that's not going to happen in. Some of the small races I kind of want to kind of see if I can finish in some of the top 5, top 10 perhaps. I just want to, basically the most important thing is I want to feel like I'm racing fast this next season. And then 2020, I was in two minds whether to kind of admit this in such a sort of public forum, but actually for years I kind of always wanted to kind of qualify for racing for Team GB and the age group stuff. So that would be my goal in 2020, to try and get myself into that position. And then 2021, I'm thinking finally of maybe doing an Ironman. It's not really something that's really grabbed my attention, but Ironman Barcelona, my friend Adam Thorne, who I put a link to last week in terms of the video that I was watching, it looks like a great race. It's flat and it's fast, and I really like the idea of that. So if I'm going to do one, I might as well do it at an age when I'm not broken, and I'll sort of be in my mid-40s, and Ironman Barcelona looks like it might be the one for me. So those are my kind of outcome goals. But then we need to start looking at how we can make that happen. We're looking at 2019 at the minute, really, because that's the next season that we've got coming up. That's what these videos are all about between now and June. So the next step then is to kind of look at maybe something like wanting to be able to feel like I race fast, which is pretty unquantifiable, and then trying to look at ways of quantifying it. A lot of the time when we race, it's actually really difficult to actually specify what we're going to get in terms of times. Even though I had my goal for Bristol to try and beat my previous times for Bristol from 2015, the wind could have been bad, the swim could have been long, who knows what might have happened in that race. And actually it's very unpredictable and really difficult to really get specific measurements of how we can make improvements on that. So instead of really going down that route of stuff that isn't very quantifiable or very measurable, we do need to go down the route of looking at some goals that are performance goals, some actual specific performance goals. So I've broken those down this year, and for 2019 I've got some very specific goals in terms of swimming. I'd like to be able to swim 800 metres in under 13 minutes, which for 800 metres comes in at 1:38 per 100 metres, which I think is doable. I haven't really got a huge amount of time between now and when I need to achieve that goal. 800 metres is a fair distance. That's the sort of pace that I will need to be swimming, if not faster, to qualify for age groups, but over 1500 metres. So it's a bit of a halfway house. So that's my swim goal, 800 metres in under 13 minutes. And then I have a bike goal, which is to try and ride the R1017, a 10-mile time trial course in Wales, which is a pretty flat, pretty fast dual carriageway course with, you go out 5 miles, you turn around a roundabout and you ride back 5 miles. And my aim really is to try and get that under 23 minutes, to try and get into that 22-minute zone. And then in terms of running, I just want to get my 5k time back under 21 minutes really. I have run a sub 20 minute 5k, which ironically was, both of them were in longer races. I ran a 1937 and a 1905 5k, and they were part of an 8k and a 10k run, but again back in 2015. So I'd like to get my run under 21 minutes this season, in June. And in terms of my weight goals, I'd like to get my body down to sort of 86 kilos, somewhere around that goal. That's another 11 kilos, 10, 11 kilos in the next 6 months, which again is going to take some work, but those are the goals that I'd like to get up together. So those are what we call performance goals. They will all lead to my outcome goal of feeling like I'm racing fast. But they're all very measurable. I can do them repeatedly in May and June and try and kind of achieve those goals. I can set races and I can set specific benchmark sessions to make sure I hit those things, but they are measurable goals. So if we've got outcome goals up here and we've got performance goals here, what that means we can set underneath are what we call process goals. Now in my world, in the music world, when you're learning an instrument, pretty much everything is a process goal. You open a drum book or a guitar book, and my son's going through it at the minute with his guitar stuff, exercise 3 at 120 beats per minute. Very small, very measurable step-by-step stepping stone goals that you can do on a daily, weekly basis and keep track of. The idea is that those process goals that we do on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, lead to our performance goals, which should lead to our outcome goals. So my weekly training really are trying to hit my process goals. I did those last week. I got my hours up. I wanted to ride to work and back to get some low intensity work done. I wanted to make sure I got some more intensity into my running, which I managed to do. I didn't really have any swimming goals other than to swim 3 times, which I managed. So I've hit those process goals. And the idea is to stack those process goals so that they eventually lead to your performance goals, which should ultimately indicate your outcome goals at the end of it. So it's a step-by-step process. Really, your SMART goals, if you've ever heard of SMART goals, should really be applying to your process and your performance goals. So in terms of SMART goals, what we mean by SMART goals, the S stands for specific, the M stands for measurable, the A stands for achievable, the R stands for relevant, and the T stands for time-based. So for example, if we're going to do something specific, it will be whatever the run is that you want to do. It might be, let's say 10 by 400s. That's specific. That's very specific as to what you want to do. And then it would be measurable. Well, then you'd put a time or a pace against that. So 10 400s in 1:30 with 45 seconds rest in between them. So that's very specific, very measurable. Is that achievable? Well, that goes hand in hand with the time-based thing, the last letter. So the A and the T go time-based. If I'm trying to achieve that in a week, no, for me, that's not achievable. Is it possible for me to achieve that in 6 weeks? Well, quite possible. So the T and the A have to go hand in hand there. Is it achievable? Well, it depends on the time basis that's there. And is it relevant? Well, the relevance is important too with the SMART goals, because it would be very easy for me to get wrapped up in wanting to improve my 100 fly time now that I've done my 100 fly, and try and get that under 150. But really, is that going to have a massive bearing on my my goal of beating 13 minutes for 800? And not overly. I mean, of course it will do, but actually there are more specific, measurable, specific goals that I can have to try and help me gain that 13-minute time limit that I'm trying to get for 800. So your SMART goals are really important to set on a weekly basis, but then also for your performance goals as well, less so for your outcome goals. They can be a little bit more kind of pie in the sky things. I want to race fast, I want to be rich, I want to have expensive cars, I want to live in the Caribbean, whatever they may be. Anyway, those are my goals. I'm going to post a link to this document that I've had that I've been working on, and kind of break it down a little bit more somewhere online. And that's pretty much it for this week. I'm going to try and get into doing a little bit more kind of filming stuff over the next week with my new camera, and hope you have a good week. We're into week 28 next week, and yeah, let's see what more progress I can make, because at the minute I am absolutely smashing it.